Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Field Guys podcast, your source for the greatest sports minds since Stephen A. Smith. We are your hosts, Cameron Curran and Max Jensen, and today on the podcast, we are looking at the return of the NFL, a few comments about the return of the MLB season, and some controversial moves made by the NFL recently. Let's get right into it, starting off with Blake Snell's comments about the MLB returning, and Bryce Harper as well. Blake Snell talked about how he wouldn't want to play for a reduced salary if the MLB was to start a shortened season. And Bryce Harper seemed to agree with him on that. And it has sparked a little bit of controversy among sports minds and the MLB.
A little bit.
So Max, let me hear your take on that.
Yeah, so I took some time to think about it. Like, I've sort of been going back and forth with how I feel about it, but I think overall, like, there's a much better way he could have gone about doing this. He did it on a Twitch stream, and if you listen to it, like the way he talks about stuff, it I'm sure he is sincere, but it doesn't seem sincere. He's like, man, this Rona, like, it's gonna get me. Like, he doesn't seem very sincere, and I understand. I agree that there's valid concerns for baseball coming back, but I feel like players' salaries should not be the number one concern. It should be like the health of the employees. I think player salaries shouldn't be at the top of the list. And look, most of those guys are already millionaires. I think actually like more emphasis should be put on minor league player salaries because those guys only get like $20,000 a year rather than the millions that the MLB guys are getting. So yeah, I don't love Blake Snell. Like I don't mind that he speaks his mind. But I don't love his opinion, I guess.
Yeah, I had a hard time with this comment too. Just for two main reasons. The first one being that in a time like this, there should, among the players, there should be an effort to have one unified message, especially if there's a push to get sports back as quickly as possible. There should be one unified message coming from the players who are talking with the owners about how this is all going to work out. If there are a bunch of different opinions going out and a bunch of different comments coming around, it'll make the process of getting sports back much slower and negotiating much harder. He should be letting the MLB Players Association do the negotiating. That's what they're there for. And it's not his position to be dirtying the water, I guess, and making it harder for the negotiations to happen if there's not a unified message. The second thing I didn't like about this, which is less a sports issue and more of just a morality issue, is that he's complaining about the differences between millions of dollars when there are like 33 plus millions Americans out of work. It's just hard to hear him complain about not being able to make his millions when he's still making millions of dollars, when it's like the greatest job loss since the recession. It just seems selfish to me, especially in a time like this. Usually I wouldn't really care because, I mean, yeah, get your money when you're young, but it feels like the wrong time to be complaining about a salary that already puts you well ahead of most of America.
Mm-hmm. And another thing, based on sort of what I've been hearing about the MLB deal, it sounds like it might actually be a choice for whether players come back to play, which, like I'm fine with you making your own decisions, but I don't love it just because that messes with the whole playoff picture. It could really screw up some things. But he talked about putting his life in danger, which is it's fair. You're putting your life at more risk than you are right now. But talk about like risk. We got healthcare industry workers. We have, cooks still going to their job, grocery store workers. Um, so I think he's got to be careful when he's talking about, his situation and him putting his life in danger when you got millions of Americans doing so much more right now, actually. And Bryce Harper backing him up is crazy. Like Snell, I think he's making 7 million or so. So I think it'd be just under 1 million that he'd be making for the shortened season. But like Harper, man, 300 million.
Yeah.
Like, come on. But I see what you're saying about like a one voice thing. And like I don't really care too much that he spoke his mind. I think people should be entitled to their opinion, but it definitely is going to have an effect on negotiating, and it could really make for a messy process. We'll see how the owner-player relationship really shakes out, and it could lead to some unwanted things. Hopefully, we don't see any like strikes or anything, but it's it's possible based
Yeah.
on what we've been seeing.
Speaking of the return of sports in general, the NFL plans on opening its facilities on Tuesday. Roger Goodell sent out a memo to most of the league, or to all of the league, saying that the facilities are going to be open on Tuesday as long as it coincides with state regulations. They are required to follow a large set of protocols. It's going to be mainly non-player staff. So 50% of the non-player staff are allowed to come back. I think I read it's only 75 people in the facilities at one time. And the only players who are allowed back are the players who were already rehabbing with the team before the shutdown. And there's going to be no coaching staff unless those coaches or trainers are helping with the rehab. And the idea behind it is that it's meant to demonstrate their ability to open, to do it slowly, and to show that they can do everything safely. So they can this is hopefully the first step in reopening up the NFL to its complete power, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you thinking?
Well, I see this mainly as like a message. I don't know if they're gonna accomplish much at the facilities that they weren't gonna be able to do outside of it, because obviously none of the players are coming back unless they're on rehab, which they were already probably connecting with a trainer at their homes. So I don't think it's going to change much, but I do think it's a good message that the NFL has the ability to come back, and we might see it come back on time in the fall. Um, but one interesting thing from the like the rules or regulations is that, like you said, they had to obtain a consent from the state and local government. And if one local government like said no, this is not allowed, then no one can do it. So I guess because Goodell announced it, I guess every government did okay this. But it seems kind of crazy that that 32 different governments have to sort of okay this, and it seems like it could be um, hard. Like if one says no, then it cancels it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, I don't know how much it'll do in terms of actually benefiting the team in like a tangible way. I don't know how much better teams will be because of this method of reopening, but I think if you're gonna reopen the league, this is the way to do it. Doing it slowly, taking those baby steps, making sure that you can actually do things the right way, and then once you're sure that this is functional, then moving on, then maybe getting players in there, then maybe getting coaches back in there. So I think this is definitely the right message to send people, to show like we can still do things, get things done without putting our workers in danger. And I also think if you want to send the message that the league is still going to open on time, games are still going to happen on time, and we're still going to get a full 16 game season in, then I think this is the way to start doing it.
Yeah.
So props to Goodell, who I usually hate.
Yes, you don't give much props to Goodell.
No one gives props to Goodell.
That's very true. But yeah, I think they actually called it phase 1, and this is exactly that. I'm sure after this, maybe they'll integrate, half of the players, maybe bring in a few coaches and slowly work their way back. And I think that's a better approach than to just go 0 to 60 and just say, hey, we're opening everything back up. Because it keeps people's safety, in their minds. I think that's just the way to go. But in other NFL news, there's a couple players that were arrested this past week.
It was like 3 separate incidences too.
Yeah, and 4 players. That's wild.
There was the Bills, Ed Oliver, the Redskins, Cody Latimer, and then the Giants, DeAndre Baker, and the Seahawks, Quentin Dunbar. And then Baker and Dunbar were together in a robbery.
Yeah. I think Ed Oliver had a DWI, Cody Latimer, assault and illegal discharge of a firearm.
Very cool.
And then Baker and Dunbar, they were involved in armed robbery. And it's just kind of crazy that it all happened like in the same week. It was like back to back to back.
Yeah.
Especially when we're all supposed to be quarantined and stuff. You have all these players getting arrested, it's weird, but it's always great to see, 2 Redskins involved in this. Dunbar used to play for the Redskins. So
yeah. Well, I mean,
great. We did sign Reuben Foster
Redskins
last year.
That's just the Redskins.
That's our luck.
Yeah, not their luck. That's what the Redskins do. They get arrested.
Not
you guys suck.
That's a whole different story, Cameron.
Well, both.
Yeah, we'll do well this
on
year.
And off the field.
Wow, we changed everything up.
Your owner
we got a
sucks.
new. That's never gonna change. So I've just pushed that aside, and I'm like, all right, we got a new GM, we got a new coach, we got some new players. I'm optimistic.
Sure. I'm
very optimistic, actually.
You should be.
Yeah, that was sarcasm.
It was sarcasm. Damn. In other NFL news, what will probably be the meat of this podcast is
steak and potatoes.
Thank you. A new, pretty controversial proposal by the NFL to incentivize the hiring of minority coaches and GMs with draft picks. So you hire people of color to those positions, and then you'd get better draft picks is the idea.
Yep.
And there has been a lot of conversation about this since it's come out, mainly negative from what I can see.
Definitely.
And not only from like politicians or NFL analysts, but seems from everybody across all spectrums.
Yeah.
It seems to be relatively regarded as the wrong way to go about doing this.
Oh yeah. Yep.
The vote, I think, happens pretty soon. They need 24 of the teams to vote yes on this one. And I have issues with this. The first one being, I agree there's a diversity issue in that position of the NFL. There are, I think, 6 people of color in GM and coaching spots across the NFL. So of the 64 positions, there are 6 people of color.
Yeah.
Which is bad. It is.
Very bad. Yep.
But the fact that the NFL feels like they need to do it this way it's a bad sign on its own to see that it's gotten to the point where teams and owners and the NFL feel like they need to incentivize teams to hire people like this. And my immediate reaction is you should be hiring the person who blows you away, right? Mike Tomlin, when he interviewed with the Steelers, he blew them away. They hired him. John Harbaugh, when he interviewed with the Ravens, he interviewed, he blew them away. That's why he got hired. So first of all, it shouldn't be a race thing. It is to some degree an issue of race, obviously, because of the 6 out of 64 positions. But I think I was listening to Lewis.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Riddick.
Lewis.
I was listening to him too.
Yeah. Lewis something on the NFL. And Riddick. Is it Lewis Riddick? Riddick. I wanted to say Reddick. I knew that was wrong. I was thinking of JJ Reddick. Yeah. But I was listening to him talk about it, and I think his idea was the one that seemed the most efficient and seemed like the best way to do it. And it was just, you need to improve the ability of minority coaches and GM prospects. You need to improve their ability to network. The first time you meet with them cannot be when they're interviewing, right? So if you meet with them outside of the interview room, if you meet with them just at a party or some kind of get together for the NFL, and you're already talking with them and you're already having conversations and they're already in your network, that gives them a better chance of being hired rather than just meeting them right off the bat at that first meeting. And that, I think, needs to be the way the NFL does this. They need to just provide more opportunities for people that aren't already in the system to network themselves. Because it's much easier if you're already well known in the NFL to network yourself, if you're already a name that people know, to network yourself. But if you're not already within those positions and if you don't already have those connections, it is very hard to get into it. And I think that's what the NFL needs to do a better job of, is providing opportunities to network yourself and meet with people and get into those inner circles. Because this isn't the way it should be done. I agree there needs to be a change in the diversity of the NFL, but this isn't the way to do it.
Yeah. And I wanted to highlight the rules of the new deal just to show how insane this is. So the first rule is a team who hires a minority head coach would move up 6 spots in the 3rd round upon the coach's 2nd season. The team would move up 10 spots in the 3rd for hiring a person of color as the general manager. If both the head coach and GM are filled by a minority candidate in the same year, they can move up to 16 spots. And there's more incentives for not firing a coach after the first 2 years. And that last one right there, that kind of just, like, the fact that they need to put that, like, if you don't fire him in the first 2 years, meaning that teams might just hire them to get better draft picks. That's awful. And this is a big problem in the NFL. It's a huge problem. But I don't feel this is the way to do it. It seems, I don't know if forced is the right word, but it's just not the way to do it. And if it's come to this, like, how bad is the NFL? Like, obviously, most, if not all, the owners, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, um, most are white old men, right? And that's another problem, and that goes past the NFL, and that goes to just society in general. There should be more minority owners as well. But it's sad to see someone like Louis Riddick, who mentioned this when I was listening to him talk, qualified candidates, even if they are hired just based on their competency,
Nice.
it's not, there's always going to be something in the back of their mind where it's like, maybe it's not, maybe it's because they're just going to get better draft picks. And that's really insulting to them. Um, I don't think it's cool. And like you said, I think networking is part of the solution. Minorities need to be able to connect with these owners, have the interview not be the first time that they speak with them. And yeah, it's a huge problem, but I don't like this. I don't think a lot of people like this. And I guess there's a vote coming up soon, but I don't know if it's going to pass.
Yeah. Overall, I think the biggest message is that it's really awful that it's gotten to this point
Yeah.
where people feel like they have to take this action to make things or to give more level ground. But at that same point, you're not even giving people level ground. You're just you're making it as if it's almost like you're telling them this is the only way for you to get hired.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's I don't like the way they're doing this. I feel like a lot of people agree, and I don't see this passing.
Yeah, it shouldn't.
It shouldn't. And I think there are better ways to go about solving this problem. And this is the one of the bad ways to go about solving this problem.
It's really insulting to a lot of folks.
So that was exciting. That was a very lighthearted topic that we just covered right there.
Right. But before we move on to our next topic, it's fun. It's a fun topic.
It's a fun segment.
I wanted to preview something. So our website, fieldguyspodcast.com, it's been updated, and I'm starting to put more like articles, you know. I will obviously post episodes, but also put some articles. And if you go check it out right now, I did one recapping. Cameron's gonna love this, the season finale of Survivor, so you can go check that out. But my most
a huge Survivor guy.
Yes, I am.
I know that.
But my most recent one that I posted today, and I'll highlight this in social media and stuff. Top 10 shortstops right now. So I want to preview it a little bit, to make you guys want to go check out the full article. But I'll give you 5 through 4. I don't want to give you number 1 because I feel like, you know, that'd be giving it away, and you guys got to go check it out.
Okay.
Number 5, I'm gonna put Xander Bogaerts. Cameron's
my boy.
Probably Cameron's number 1.
Greatest name.
Yeah, Bogaerts he's insane on offense. He had a 141 runs created plus, 33 home runs. His fielding though it's really bad. It's rough, but the offense
irrelevant
levels it out. I think his defensive run saves over the last 3 years, -21, -19, -11. So I don't know if the Red Sox necessarily have this ability, but if they can move him over to like second base or third base or something, I think he'd thrive there.
Hey, that is Dustin Pedroia's rightful spot.
Right.
And you
Dustin
will
Pedroia, who's
respect
played,
his
like,
abilities.
2 games over the past 5 years.
Greatest second baseman of all time. Get Jeter out of there.
Yeah. Jeter's a shortstop.
That's what I said.
Okay. Number 4, I'm putting Francisco Lindor. Before last season, he was probably number 1 on a lot of people's lists. And last year he had a good season, but it wasn't like a Lindor season, right? He had a 114 runs created plus and 32 bombs compared to 2018 where he had 130 and 38 home runs. So he definitely declined a little bit, but he's still, a top tier shortstop, one of the best in the game. Number 3, I'm maybe this is premature, but I'm putting Fernando Tatis Jr. And look, he's only played half a year, but his stats were ridiculous. He hit 22 home runs.
Half a year seems very premature, Max.
And 16 stolen bases, hitting 317 with a 150 runs created plus. Put that over a full season, all right? That's 42 home runs, 31 stolen bases, and that's that 317 average, which is ridiculous. All right. He's good on defense. He's up there with Juan Soto and Ronald Acuna as one of the most fun players to watch in the entire MLB. He's
over half a season.
He's so entertaining.
Over half a season.
Okay, Cameron.
I'm just saying.
This is also a list moving forward. These are going to be the 10 best shortstops whenever we play baseball again.
Okay.
And then the last guy I'll preview at number 2. You don't get number 1. Javi Baez.
That's my boy.
Javi, another guy that's super fun to watch. He hit 29 home runs with a 114 runs created plus last year, and he was an MVP candidate the year before. And his offense went down a little bit like Lindor, but his defense took a huge step forward. And we talked about Bogaerts earlier, that negative 21 defensive run saves. Baez had a positive 15, which was 12 more than he had the previous season. So that's your little preview. You got to go check out the rest of it, though.
Javi Baez carried my fantasy baseball team.
You checked your fantasy team like twice.
Last year I did. 2 years ago when I had him, though, he made it fun to check.
All right. Well, if we ever do it again, I need you to check. You're at the bottom of the standings with baseball. You're good at football.
Because I know football. I'm always good at football. I know football. I'm not good at baseball. Because I also,
if you check it once a week, if you set your lineups once a week and you really pay attention, it's hard not to do well.
No, see, that was my problem with it though. Is I never knew when to, because the games happen every day, so I never knew when to set my lineup or when to do what. And I also, the thing that I have in the NFL over the MLB is I can go to the NFL and I can work the waiver wires for fantasy football. I can see some hidden gems, and I can do week to week stuff for the waiver wire.
Yeah.
I cannot do that with baseball. I know the top players on each team, but I can't work the waivers in baseball, man.
Yeah. So you guys listening, you get a tip from me. One thing to cut your time in half, instead of setting your lineups every day, which is fine and it's fun, try doing it every week and go through each day. Take 20 minutes and set your lineups for each day, all in that one sit down. But the one thing that you don't do and that I keep up with is when big prospects are called up. When Juan Soto was called up, I picked him up the night he was called up. I remember picking him up. So that's kind of what you need to do in fantasy baseball, and not a lot of people love it as much as football because it's a lot more time.
I don't have the dedication.
It takes a lot more effort.
It does.
It's a grind. Do we want to move on to our fun topic?
Our fun segment.
Oh yeah.
We had an argument last night, and it was before we were about to get on Call of Duty Warzone.
As one would.
as one would. And we talked about it a little bit while we were playing, but it mainly happened in the pre-game time.
While I was graduating.
While Max was graduating,
Obama was
watched
giving
Barack
my
Obama
commencement
speak
speech
directly to Max.
LeBron was also talking to me.
Yeah.
So.
No one else was there. It was just Max.
It was just me.
They actually called him.
Yeah.
We got into some nostalgia, and we started talking about. That's because I was watching Avatar: The Last Airbender on Netflix. Great show.
It's a good show. Yeah.
Earlier during this quarantine, I binged the newest Scooby-Doo.
Right.
And Max was taking some subtle shots at me, saying I watched Scooby-Doo and Avatar and I'm 18.
Yeah.
Which I responded with, shut up. They're bangers, and they will always be bangers regardless of age.
Uh-huh.
And that led us down a huge rabbit hole of arguing about the greatest shows from when we were children.
Yeah.
And there was some controversy.
Oh, for sure.
That came up.
Yeah.
A lot of shows that people did not watch.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of disagreements about what made a show good. And so we have compiled our top 5 shows, animated and live action, to give to you guys today.
Yes.
Now these are from when we were children. So
yeah.
Obviously you may have had different child time shows depending on when you grew up. But for all those kids born in between 2000 and 02 is our year. But if you're born in between 2000, 2003, 2004 even, these I guess 2005 even probably got a little bit of this.
Yeah, these are your shows.
These are the shows that we have picked from that plethora of fantastic television.
All right. I think the way we should do this is go, I say my 5, you say your 5, and just go up.
Okay.
But I actually put some honorable mentions because there were just so many good shows.
Yep.
My first honorable mention, Zach and Cody, Baller Show. They made the cruise version of that too, which was really good as well.
Yeah, on deck. That was a good one. I almost preferred that one more.
Yeah, I know.
I think it's just because I remember it better.
Yeah, it was more recent. Another honorable mention, Victorious. Victorious was great. Cat was Ariana Grande. Fantastic. They pretty much all of the characters just they had a great personality. Victorious, the main character,
the Tory chick.
Tori,
she was
a little bland, but
sucked.
I wouldn't go that far.
Well, she sucked off camera. You seen those videos of
I have no idea about any of
videos
that.
Of people talking about, or they'd interview the cast. They'd be like, all right, so who sings the most off camera? And everyone would be like, oh, it's totally Ariana.
Yeah.
And then
who's hated the most?
And then who sings the most? Who likes to do the most musical stuff off camera? And everyone would be like, oh, it's totally Ariana. And then Victoria just would be like, I think we all do it, actually, guys.
All right, no, I have seen that. I have seen that. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Jelly.
Another honorable mention, actually, my next 2 are both animated. Fairly Odd Parents. I think that's a good really show. Underrated one.
It's underrated.
Not a lot of people talk about it.
It's a little bit on the weirder side, but I always like that show. Plus, it had a fire intro.
True. And then my last one, I still don't know how it didn't make my top 5, but my top 5 is pretty good. SpongeBob. I feel Cameron has a very different opinion on this.
I don't have a very different opinion.
Or maybe it was Mohammed that had a different opinion on this.
No, our friend Mohammed, the problem arose when you said SpongeBob was better than one of the shows in my top 5.
And we won't spoil that.
We won't spoil that. SpongeBob is a decent show, and there's definitely some banger episodes.
Oh yeah,
but it's not quite a top 5.
Yeah, I'd put
Maybe
it like
maybe not even
6.
like a top 7. It might sneak into the top 10 for me.
Okay.
But when you're doing animated and live action, it's like barely a top 10 for me. You know, and I think that was where the main controversy arose.
Yeah. I think content-wise, it's maybe not a top 5, but I don't want to say like influential, but I probably watched it like almost the most out of any of these.
It's been the most. It was the best for the longest time. I guess.
There you go.
It had the longest run.
Yeah. So why don't you go with your number 5 first?
All right, my number 5. I didn't take too much time putting these into order, but I'm looking at it and I'm comfortable with this order. My number, it's the 5th show, but my top 2 are like 1A and 1B.
Ah, that's no
They're
fun.
equal for me. They have
That's
to be equal
no
for me.
fun.
I'm sorry, they have to be. They're very equal. I can't put one over the other. It would be disrespecting to the other one if I put one over the other. So I just have them 1A and 1B.
All right.
So the 4th place show is Zach and Cody for me. Both I'm gonna combine On Deck in the hotel one as like one long series.
That's fine.
But I'd say the overall Zach and Cody universe.
The multiverse.
The multiverse
of
Zach and Cody is 4th place for me.
Okay.
So you'll do your number 5.
Yeah, my number 5 is Good Luck Charlie. That show was awesome on the Disney Channel. The dad his journey through the show was fantastic.
His journey, the overarching.
Because he
Bob
started off,
plot.
with the dad bod, but then as the seasons went on, he just got more muscular, and then he ended up ripped. So he was a great part of the show.
Physical ability attributes seem to be pretty important in your show rankings.
That's not why it's number 4.
I don't know. When you were talking
5,
about Jesse earlier,
Jesse is a good show, and you don't give it enough credit.
I got into Jesse, but you were using
wasn't Jesse
as one of your arguments.
Wasn't Jesse like the main character? Did she start on Zach and Cody? I do not
Debbie
remember.
Ryan?
I feel like she did.
Yeah, she started on Sweet Life.
Yeah,
she was like the nerdy the nerd girl who.
Yeah. But yeah, Good Luck Charlie's my number 5.
All right, my number 3. By the way, Good Luck Charlie, great show. I think that would be in my honorable mentions.
Okay.
I have nothing against putting that in the top 5. My number 3 is Zoey 101. I think that is another one where it ran for a decent amount of time, and I enjoyed all the seasons. Great cast. There were no like super hateable characters. Logan was pretty bad, but I mean, like, he had his redeeming moments, and I thought he was a good he was a smart addition because it didn't make everybody like nice and happy. It was a smart way to add this other dimension to the show.
Yeah.
Zoey 101, I feel like, was a really huge banger.
Right.
I'm going to put it at my number 3 spot.
Yeah, I never watched Zoey 101, and I don't know why, because I'm sure I would have enjoyed it. This is the same thing with Drake and Josh, which I never watched. I feel like I didn't go out of my way not to watch it, but it was like it probably just was never on, when I sat down, which is crazy.
Drake and Josh was fine. It was a good show. Decent television.
Yeah. All right. My number 4, one of the best bands of all time. Big Time Rush.
Yep.
It was, first of all, their music is great.
They
made a song with
music.
Snoop Dogg.
Snoop D-O-G-G.
Yeah. Boyfriend. That's a banger. But they have a lot of bangers. But the show was great in general. I love every single one of them. I think it's hard to pick a favorite. It's like picking your favorite kid, but I don't know. It's between Kendall and Logan for me. Those are my 2 faves. I mean, Carlos is awesome too. Like I don't know. And James, it's so hard. It's so hard, Cameron.
See, it's interesting that you have that at your number 4, because because that's my number 2.
Yeah.
So I have
Yeah.
that one more slot. Fantastic show.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. And Gustavo.
My God.
I was watching like an interview, or not an interview, but Stephen Glick, the guy who played Gustavo, was talking about it. And apparently Kendall and Snoop Dogg, they all smoked together when they were on the set. So they were like
That's
filming the show for
awesome.
12-year-olds, and they were all smoking weed in the back.
Oh my God.
It's
All right, Kendall's my new
legendary.
favorite.
How do you not? If Snoop Dogg offers you weed, you smoke it with him. I feel that's kind of just like a rite of passage. I think it's hard. I think Carlos is just a little bit above the other 3 for me.
Okay.
I just think he has the most fun personality.
Yeah. And now he's in like every Hallmark movie in existence.
This is true.
My number 3, Wizards of Waverly Place. Now this was Selena Gomez before she was like Selena Gomez, right?
Yep.
Before she was big. And it was just a great show in general. I remember they made a movie too, which was that was good as well.
It was a good movie.
But the magic, everything about it was just fantastic.
I thought Wizards of Waverly Place was good.
Yeah.
It's I think it's top 10 for me.
Okay.
Maybe one of my honorable mentions.
Okay.
I think my main issue with it was it got a little confusing towards the end. I couldn't really follow it. I feel like they tried to do too much.
Yeah, so our 10-year-old selves did not have the ability.
My mind did not have the capacity for Wizards of Waverly Place.
Yeah.
And all of their inner dialogues. This is where I get into my 1A, 1B section.
Yeah. And we have the same show in this spot.
Yeah, we do. Now, let me start by saying, just because it's in the 1B spot doesn't make it worse than the 1A. It's just the thing I wrote down second.
Oh,
all right.
Mine is different. This is my number 2 because Cameron is lame.
I think. You know what? I'm gonna call an audible here.
Ooh.
I'm gonna say 1A and 1B are still the same 2 shows, but I'm gonna give A and B weight. I'm gonna say they're both number 1. But if there was a gun to my head, I'd pick this over the other one.
So this is number 2.
No, this is where the audible comes in. I'm choosing this one over the other one.
Oh, you're flip-flopping them.
Well, it's kind of like flip-flopping since they were on the same ground before. Now, they're still on the same ground, but like. One's just like a little bit taller, if that makes any sense.
It makes no sense, Cameron. Just make it 2 and 1. It's not that hard. It is
hard. It is hard.
Okay.
It's the people.
Just go ahead. Just go ahead.
All right, 1B. This one's gonna hurt. I'm putting Avatar: The Last Airbender as 1B. It hurts to put it as to imply that I like it less than my next show. But this has to be one of the greatest shows of all time. Get rid of the fact that it's a kids show. Overall, some of the greatest television in my entire life, I think. It has fantastic characters, right? They can change matter. Okay, that's already awesome. He's 12 and he's taking down entire armies, right? They have a flying bison, and it's one of the greatest pieces of television on the planet. And it's so good. It's so I can watch it at any age and think to myself, wow, this is a fantastic show.
It's a solid show. Don't think it makes my top 5. I think I'd put it in the top 10.
That's ridiculous.
I think you're overhyping it just
this is
a little bit.
This is the show that started the whole conversation. Remember
I said SpongeBob was better.
How we wouldn't
this.
Yes, you did say SpongeBob was better than Avatar, which was ridiculous. But this is remember earlier we were talking about how I wouldn't spoil it. but I was watching Scooby-Doo and Avatar, and Max made fun of me for watching Scooby-Doo and Avatar, and this is what started the entire conversation.
Yes.
Avatar, respect to you.
There. I'll give Avatar credit because he gave us something to talk about. It was a good show. My number 2, Phineas and Ferb.
Mm-hmm.
This show, I mean, it was always summer vacation. They were always, building something cool. You got Perry the Platypus, Dr. Doofenshmirtz.
Yep.
I mean, this show was just next level. And the other day, I think it was on TikTok or something, but I heard a song and I was like, this is familiar. Like I really like it. And I couldn't figure out what it was, but it was a Phineas and Ferb song.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
And Phineas and Ferb is my number 1. It's my 1A. It's, first of all, if you go back and rewatch Phineas and Ferb, there are some jokes in there that are like high IQ. There are jokes in there meant for the parents watching that show. There are genuinely funny moments in that show that are like well written. I think like one of the main producers worked on The Simpsons, which certainly helps.
That's true.
But Phineas and Ferb is my 1A. You can watch that show anytime. Notice how my top 2 are animated. I don't know what that says about me, but notice that.
Noted.
It was so good. It was such a good show. And there are no bad things to say about Phineas and Ferb.
Not one.
Soundtrack, they had an original soundtrack, and every song was fantastic.
Up there with Big Time Rush.
Up there with Big Time Rush. They rival each other.
All right, my number 1, and I don't understand how this is not in your top 5.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, and I'll comment late. I'll comment when you're done.
The best childhood show for me of all time, iCarly. Yeah. This show had probably the best characters out of any show that I can think of. I mean, you got Gibby, you got Spencer, you got Sam, you got. I mean, Carly, like she's fine. I see her as like
just the least exciting one.
It's always like the main character who's just like.
It's because the main character I feel like is meant to be like the most generally agreeable one, which makes them less exciting than all the rest of them.
And then my boy Freddie, just a baller cast and some great episodes. Yeah, it was just I can't think of anything bad to say about it.
Looking back on it, I feel like I definitely disrespected iCarly by not leaving it out of my top 5.
Yeah.
I don't know if it beats out Avatar and Phineas and Ferb as my 1A and 1B. It most certainly does not beat out Phineas and Ferb.
Okay.
I might have to slide it in to my number 2 slot, as like the third best show.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it didn't come to mind when I was writing my list down. I kind of brain farted on iCarly, but I feel like I definitely put iCarly above BTR.
Yeah,
so
I think
so. I'll officially put
another
iCarly
audible
as my number 2.
Man, you can't make up your mind.
First of all, there are so many options.
Yeah, there are.
And I think, but between, like, when you get to this point in the pyramid, the pinnacle, if you will, it's all semantics. You know, they're all essentially the greatest of all time.
That's your opinion.
There's really no the differences between them are all very slight. Okay. And they're there, but they're slight, I feel.
All right. If you say so.
I do say so.
But that sort of wraps it up for this episode of the podcast. Yep. We'll be back soon for I guess it's the last episodes of the MJ documentary.
Yes. We apologize for that hiatus we took
I'm sure you guys were so disappointed, and we're very sorry.
To our very dedicated listeners out there.
Yes.
We will do the MJ series episodes that we missed in the next show. We'll just do a grand 7 through 10
Grand finale,
if you will.
Yeah. So that's that. Make sure you guys subscribe if you're listening on YouTube. Leave us a like. Ask us questions. We wanna talk to you guys. So make sure just hit us up about anything.
Send the video to your family.
Yeah.
If you feel so inclined.
What did you say?
Send the video to your family if you feel so inclined.
Oh, I get
it. Get the
that
word
would
out
be
there.
Awesome.
Yeah. DM random celebrities about us.
Yeah.
Get them to come on the show, and if you get a random celebrity to come on our show, we'll give you a shout out, I guess.
Yes.
That would be fun. That would be exciting.
Yes, we have big ambitions for some people who we want to get on this podcast.
Huge.
But yeah, that wraps it up.
Yep.
Until next time, we'll see ya.
Thank you, everybody.